Hello everybody and welcome back. Good to talk to all of you again today. It is a fantastic Sunday, at least where I am, which is a good break because we had like a couple thunderstorms the last few days. So nice and sunny today, beautiful day. And yeah, I've got a replay for all of you. This one from Edward Kenway Potato playing Tier 10 French Heavy Cruiser Henri IV. Or we can just call it the Grande Baguette with a flamethrower. That works too. The Henri IV is basically that. It's a very, very fast ship, able to stay at standoffish range and just pummel you to death with its HE. And then in the later stages of the battle, it can certainly switch over to its armor piercing, get onto your flanks, and just pepper you with very, very good damaging AP salvos as well. This ship is just very good at being very annoying. And that's how Edward plays. It's, of course, also helped by the fact that he happens to be playing on the world's most realistic map, Ocean. This is such an awesome map because there's absolutely no hard cover for the enemy. You can hit them and hit them and hit them with HE, and there's nothing that they can do about it. There's nothing to hide behind. So, of course, that will be the strategy. Sit off at somewhat standoffish range and start peppering the enemy. And you might as well start with their battleships because, hey, why not? Battleships deserve to be on the receiving end of all the fury and hatred of cruiser players. One gets to annoy the crap out of the other, and the other gets to one-shot nuke you if RNG just happens to agree with them. Back to the battle at hand, and a bunch of enemy cruisers, including a Neptune, an Edinburgh, and an Otago, about 13.5 kilometers away from Edward. Well, he does the smart thing. Goes from HE to AP because the Henri's armor piercing is very, very capable of doing good amounts of damage. Getting citadels, not really a problem. The shells are, they're big cruiser shells. They do quite a bit of damage. They also have very, very good penetration. I believe right now in the game, second best penetration of armor piercing, just a touch behind the Moskva. So definitely a smart thing to do to go to AP and try to get some of those citadel hits. And even if the Henri doesn't actually get citadels, just with the AP alone and getting penetration, you can get some pretty good damage on enemy ships. Against this Neptune there, no citadel hits, 2 penetrations and overpen, but still 5,000 plus damage in that salvo. So very nice damaging armor piercing. Against battleships, again, if they're giving you a broadside, you can definitely go for it. The Henri is just one of those ships where in the early stages of the game, you're definitely playing a little bit more out, at a distance, more of a harassing kind of ship. But later on, as the enemy ships sort of die out and there's a lot more space, a lot more ability to engage on sort of more one-on-one kind of battles, you can definitely start to close the range a little bit more. At close range, her AP is devastating, and unlike the Moskva, she also has a set of torpedoes handy, which, the Moskva does not. Moskva, again, you pretty much want to spend almost the entire game as a Moskva at range. You just don't want to get all that close. With the Henri, definitely can go for it. Now, let's just have this battle continue because I think the next little bit is going to be some glorious HE spam because that is what you do. Actually, nope. Wait. Somebody else popped up. Hold up. There's the Edinburgh. It popped up. Bad place to pop up. 10 kilometers away from an Henri. That Edinburgh better start turning away or the next salvo is... Oof. Let's see here. Okay, I mean, see, that's what I'm saying. Even if the salvo isn't great, you're still doing some pretty good penetration damage. But had the Edinburgh stayed in its original position full broadside, I think that would have been the equivalent of getting deleted right there and then. Oh, actually, never mind. Still deleted. There's the Citadel and dead. And that's actually first blood 5 minutes into the battle. Okay, Edward's going to turn his attention onto that Otago over there. That Otago is just like, nope, getting out of here. Not a good place to be. Not a bad decision. And of course falls off of detect, so that means back to potentially shooting at other things, namely that large blob of battleships over there. Enemy Moskva, as you can tell, yeah, in pretty much where the Moskva should be. Moskva and Henri, I think, in the early stages of the battle, occupy a very, very similar place in terms of where they're supposed to be. Although with the Moskva's radar, you can sometimes push forward a little bit more, use that radar, try to spot some destroyers. With the Henri, you don't really want to get close at the early stages of the game. Maybe go more towards the flanks and use that good speed to get to the flanks, and go from there. Enemy Moskva decides to... Ooh, this might be a bit of a mistake on the Moskva's part, because you don't usually want to abandon your battleship line like that. Comes out, it's still full HP Moskva, so all the sections of the ship are still at full, so it takes a very, very solid hit there from the Henri for 8,800 damage from that armor piercing. Ouch. But because that Moskva is angled, Edward does actually go ahead and switch over to a HE just to maybe get some fires, and, well, not much a Moskva can do against high explosive except maybe to just fall out of range again, or just put themselves into a position where they are not the primary target. Enemy destroyer also got a little bit brave there. I think maybe at this particular time as Edward, I think I would have actually focused that destroyer a little bit more, just because low HP and just easy to take that ship out instead of having, looked around for other targets first. There we go, the salvo against that destroyer, and there we go. There's kill number 2. I personally think would have gone for that shot just a little bit earlier. Okay, so attention turns back onto the enemy Tago. And here is the thing about the Henri, right? Look at the position that Edward's in. He's gotten into more of that flanking-ish position compared to where the rest of his team is. But once you're in that position, if you get in trouble, you can definitely just turn away and try to get out of there if things become not so nice. If the enemy team starts to focus you, or you just happen to get a little bit too far away from your own team to the point where, you're out of position, the Henri does have the ability to get back to some place in a hurry. Just a very, very fast ship. The speed offers a lot of flexibility as well. Okay, so enemy Moskva went out and died. Like I said, really not a very good decision by that Moskva. Moskva just should mostly stay further back, hang out with the battleships, and not really just charge in there, because that's going to get you killed. Now, for me personally, recently, I've played a little bit more, like a little bit of tier 10 cruisers, and I don't know. My personal feel right now on the tier 10 cruisers is that they're all very similar, maybe not the best word, but they all play very, very similar to each other. I mean, well, okay, especially in particular, Zhao, Henri, Moskva, and of course the now buffed Hindenburg, they all play pretty much the same. There's very little variation. Maybe little bits of differences here and there. But nothing to make me go, wow, that's really different. Which I guess I'm gonna say I'm actually very glad that the new ranked season that they're talking about is gonna be tier 6. Because tier 6, I feel like there's a little bit more variability between ships. Like some ships are going to be better at some things compared to others, and there's better rules. And I feel like that's going to be better for ranked. With the tier 10 cruisers right now, to be honest, it feels a little stale, to be perfectly blunt about the issue. Because I mean, think about the Zhao playstyle: stay at range, spam HE. Hindenburg, stay at range, spam HE. Henri, stay at range, spam HE. It's just oh yeah, Moskva too. Stay at range, spam HE. So I think the only one that I would say might be all that different is really Minotaur, which is not really a heavy cruiser. Minotaur being more of a light cruiser and just sort of unique sort of British thing. And Des Moines, although Des Moines is also kind of stay at range and spam HE. Well, I mean, okay, Des Moines not as much the same way as Zhao, Hindenburg, Henri, or Moskva. Des Moines is a little bit more in need of islands to stay behind. It generally plays, a little bit on the closer sort of range, just because its arcs aren't all that nice for like long distance shooting. So Des Moines is a little bit different. Like again, Minotaur and Des Moines are two ships that I think actually are still okay in terms of just being sort of different. But the other 4, just a little bit too similar in playstyles these days for my liking. I mean, Hindenburg after that buff is just what? Like recently I've run into Hindenburg in tier 10 as a battleship and just like, what the heck am I dealing with now? The ship and its ludicrous HE penetration, and it can stay at like massive range and just pepper you, and it's just, nothing you do really works. You can't angle your armor against them. They set you on fire a whole bunch of times. You just eat tons and tons of damage. Hindenburg, that buff was just completely silly. So while we let Edward continue to just roam around the battlefield, lighting everything on fire for lulls, and doing damage while he's at it, even if he doesn't get the fires. Let's quickly talk about one other little tidbit of something that I read this morning. War Thunder is going to get the Fletcher now. Now that's a ship that I can get a little bit excited for. Wasn't a huge, fan of the Project 7 glorious Soviet destroyer that, wasn't too thrilled with that. But, the Fletcher's coming. That could be exciting. We'll have to see how that compares against the Tribal. But, when I get into the next test, I will have a video for all of you about that. Other piece of news, I guess, kinda. So there's going to be a Naval Legends episode, coming from Wargaming, not too distant future, on HMCS Haida. Now I have some behind-the-scenes stuff, and it's been sort of held up because of some legal thing by Parks Canada, and not sure if I'm still going to be able to release the video, although what I've gotten most recently in terms of updates is they would like to see the thing before they approve it or something like that. I don't know. So I'm going to try to work on that video, get it done, and, get it cleared and authorized and whatnot, and I'll have it out. And then hopefully you guys can see some pretty neat things about how, certain episodes of Naval Legends are actually made. And it's actually very, very neat. There was actually some pretty cool stuff, both information-wise, found out during that particular, filming day, as well as, even the conditions around it and, how do they deal with it as a professional film crew. So some pretty neat things coming down the pipeline in the next little bit. Of course, there's always the ship review and Know Your Ship episodes for this month, which are also in the works right now. It looks like, if, assuming nothing else changes, it looks like we might be looking at the Bogue. Somebody, I think, has finally managed to convince enough people that I have to do the Bogue, and that is just, that will be fun for me. I hate that ship. I really positively hate that ship. Anyways, alright, so yeah, back to the battle at hand, and you can see this is what Edward does. Just, sit at range happily, pummeling away with HE and just picking up nice amounts of damage. I mean, so far 165,000 damage and counting. It's definitely not the end of the damage numbers. They're going to keep ticking. Enemy team, of course, lots of trouble now. I mean, if you take a look at them, they're just not in good shape. That seemed like a pretty decent shot onto the side of the Henri, but the Henri does have that kind of spaced armor, which can lead to some very, very troll, I'm not going to say bounces, it's not really a bounce, it leads to some really troll things happening. Like sometimes you just don't get damage, your shell hits and you just don't get anything. So yeah, not much fun. Okay, and here we go. This is the thing about the Henri that I was talking about earlier. Later on in the game, as things open up more and you're a little bit more one-on-one, you can go from HE to AP, and the AP does pretty fantastic damage. Take a look at the salvo against this Friedrich the Gross. There is only 6 shells, 6,000 damage. That's very good damage considering, your next salvo is coming out in like 10 seconds. That's very, very good damage. There's another salvo there and dead. Yeah, just those 2 salvos alone was, what, close to 12,000 damage, I think, if I remember correctly. It's a lot of damage, to be able to dish out in a very, very short period of time in the later stages of the game. And, of course, you can also tell by being angled, damage that Edward is taking in return is rather more minimal. Enemy Des Moines initially went a little bit broadside, so Edward did a little ammo switch from HE to AP, but Des Moines actually then turned away, got angled, but then showed that flat stern, so it still ended up eating a Citadel. Too much RNG for me sometimes, a little bit too much. Alright, so back to HE, another salvo to AP, just kind of rotating between the ammo, I think, right now, hoping to catch Des Moines on a good broadside. As you can see, the Henri's armor is just, still withstanding quite a bit of hits there from the enemy ships. Enemy team is, of course, going to lose this. By this stage of the game, you already know that they have just nothing left. All right, there we go. Final Citadel. There's the Kraken, 212k damage. Look at that. Just absolutely fantastic armor on the Henri against that Amagi there. And there we go. Watch the AP damage. AP damage can be quite phenomenal on the ship. That was only 2 penetration for about 5,000 some odd damage. Another salvo. And this one is a little bit better aimed. 10,850. Oh man, that's why cruisers like cruisers like this ship are just incredibly strong. You know, they can harass you long range, and if they get close, they can still put out tremendous amounts of damage if you're giving them a little bit too much broadside. And just waiting right now for that final killer salvo here. Amagi's in trouble here. I'm thinking the final damage counter is somewhere around 235, I think, maybe. There you go, 700 HP left on the Amagi. The friendly Minotaur is just spamming tons of shells but hitting like nothing at all. Okay, there you go. There's the final HE salvo there. 200 HP left to be earned, and there's the kill. There we go, 235,219 damage. 210 hits total, 6 ships destroyed. Not as many fires, 11 fires only, but still enough to pick up that Witherer badge as well. High caliber, Confederate Kraken, 563,000 credits, 6,161, 2,738 base experience, which is a very, very, very nice base experience score. And his team as a whole actually did really, really well. If you take a look at the team, there's another person 2,000 experience, 2 people in the 1,800s, a lot of good experience scores there. Damage-wise, quite a nice balance, 82k with high explosive, 91 with AP, 61 from fires. Just very, very good balanced sort of damage in terms of between the two shells for a cruiser. No, showing that Edward actually knew when to switch between one and another. After all the deductions, 291,121 credits net earned. And that does it for me today, folks. I hope you all have yourselves a very, very good Sunday, especially if you're still on the West Coast and you have a bit more of the Sunday to go. For me on the East Coast, it's getting a little bit later, but hey, if you're out there and you're still on Sunday sometime, have a good one. And I'm looking forward to talking to all of you again really, really soon.